Hi, and welcome to Soul Group. I'm Angela. You've found Angela Solutions, and I'm super excited to dive into the four-letter word series, lesson number 2. This solution is all about cognitive distortion, something we started talking about last week. Cognitive distortion, for our purposes this week, we're going to talk all about the connection between your thoughts and your feelings. So simply put, this is a core teaching on the lies your brain tells you every day and the many ways your feelings interact with your thoughts, okay? So throughout this solution and all of the ones in this series, I'm using four-letter words as a learning tool, okay? Four-letter words as learning technique to help you remember the stuff we talk about, to reference the particular lessons. And so before we start, I'd like to humbly, respectfully request, if you like what you hear here, please like, share, follow, and subscribe. Let's begin. So in the last solution, I explained that I believe the world sends messages to our egos all day long about who and what we should want to be rather than who and what we actually are. Okay, and in that solution, and in this one, really all of mine, anytime I refer to ego, what I'm talking about is that conscious part of self that we show the world. Okay, I also shared my core belief that all comparisons between yourself and others are automatically false. Okay, the only person you should ever compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. And any attempt to compare ourselves to others leads immediately to judgment. There's some sort of judgment call there, okay? And anytime we start to judge ourselves or another human being, our capacity for love and grace automatically begins to diminish. There's this immediate, almost reflexive diminishing of our self-love or our love for others and our grace for self and others. I label these media-driven messages these media-driven or material world-driven messages as lies your mind is telling you. Mental lies are cognitive distortion, and cognitive distortion is loud. So one of our four-letter words from last week. Last week, I encouraged you to become uniquely curious about yourself and the way your brain works. And so here's where we jump into our new stuff, okay? There is a reason why you automatically cringe or recoil when someone crosses your boundaries or otherwise offends you, okay? Our bodies automatically recognize and react to danger quicker than our thoughts and our consciousness really does, okay? This is a survival instinct. There's a thing that fear does that kind of kicks us in, right? So fear and threats are felt, four-letter word, before we intellectually process them. But fear is hard to admit to, right? Kind of like sadness is hard to admit to. That's why when our feelings get hurt or we become offended, what do? Rather than getting afraid or sad, we usually become angry. Anger is easier to feel than fear or sadness, and we'll dive deeper into fear and other cognitive distortions in the next few solutions. But I just wanted to point that out as an example, because too often our minds are interpreting and reacting to these ego-based messages, right? Anytime we react rather than respond to information, we're prone to overreacting, which is emotion-based. So our feelings work with our thoughts and vice versa, and we all experience things that clinically we call primary and secondary emotions. And that's kind of what I was talking about, those examples I was giving with fear and sadness versus anger, right? Primary emotions, fear and sadness. Secondary emotions, anger. Secondary emotions come from and build on our primary emotions, but frequently it's those secondary emotions that we express, right? Frequently it's those secondary emotions that feel safer. So as I've said before, most people find it easier to express anger than it is to express fear or sadness. And yet anger is almost always in response to fear and sadness. So soul work are two big four-letter words from last week. Soul work. How do you do this? You want to become a better version of you. You want to understand yourself better. You need to know who you really are, right? Becoming uniquely curious about yourself. Only then can you learn to pause and then respond to whatever's going on, right? We need to learn how to go on what I call a fact-finding mission. Fact, four-letter word. Okay? Fact-finding mission. If you can pause and respond to facts rather than the way you're feeling, chances are you're more likely to give a deliberate response rather than an emotion-based reaction. So today's big lesson, a couple of things I want you to know. You're not responsible for the first thought or reaction that comes to mind. Okay? That's default setting. You can't really do anything about that first, right? You are responsible for whether or not you act on it. You are responsible for your thoughts or your feelings, your mood for that matter, if you continue thinking along the lines, along that first potentially troubling thought pattern, that potentially troubling reactive instinct. Remember, when last week I talked about not being good enough, strong enough, smart enough. According to whom? Do you really believe that? Because if you do, change whatever it is that isn't good enough, strong enough, smart enough, whatever enough about yourself. And if you don't know how, learn to ask for help. Four-letter word. If you don't believe that you're not good enough, strong enough, smart enough, whatever, when that's that initial reaction that comes to mind, then stop thinking about it. Remember, no one gets to tell you who you are but you. I apologize for that very disturbing sound. Dog chewing on a bone. Bone's another four-letter word, but don't get me started there. Okay, so fact-finding mission. Fact, four-letter word. Ask for help, four-letter word, if you don't know how to stop thinking along those lines. Because the fact is, these lies are only true if you believe them. These lies in your mind are only real if you follow them, if you live into them. Okay, so I know that's a lot. I know I just threw out a lot of concepts to you. So what have we learned? Last week we talked about best self. Getting to best self or a better self requires soul work, and soul work requires becoming uniquely curious about yourself and the lies your mind is telling you. I said that we can learn how to change the content and the quality of our thought. We can learn how to silence the loud, but we're going to start by just turning down the loud, those really loud messages that we get from this material world, sending messages to our egos all day long. So I will learn to teach you how to identify when your self-talk, two four-letter words, is untrue. I will teach you how to identify the difference between your facts and your feelings. I need you to hang in here with me. Let's do this work. It's possible. A lot of people find that it's actually fun once you dive in, okay? So I'm delighted you found this community and these solutions. I hope you decide to stay a while. And if you do, please like, share, follow, and subscribe. Pay attention to my website. It is developing and growing. New stuff is coming all the time. So hang in there. I will see you next week when we talk about all the different ways fear influences the way your brain works. So stay tuned. I'll see you next time.